Oftentimes we think of teeth as like these single standing units,
Mm.
but really they're part of a system, right? And that system, the mouth, has a lot of moving parts to it. And it's a very dynamic environment. It changes very rapidly. And when we remove a key component of that system, systems adapt. And that adaptation is what we call the domino effect. Welcome to the Semide Dental Podcast. We're here to provide you expert insights on how dentistry can improve your quality of life and extend your health span. I'm Alex Semide, and I'm a practicing dentist, and I'll be your host, along with Jeremy Wolf. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Semide Dental Podcast. Jeremy Wolf here alongside your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Alex Semide. Dr. Alex, always a pleasure, brother.
Yeah, man. Good to be back. Good to be recording. Super excited about today's episode because I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it. And, hopefully we spark some good conversations.
Well, I myself can certainly relate to it because I have had this issue myself. Today we're talking about the domino effect, right? Why one missing tooth is never just one tooth.
Right. So the way I like for folks to think about this is, the mouth doesn't lose a tooth, right? It loses stability because oftentimes we sort of think of teeth as like these single, standing units, but really they're part of a system, right? And that system, the mouth, has a lot of moving parts to it. And it's a very dynamic environment. It changes very rapidly. And when we remove a key component of that system, systems adapt. And that adaptation is what we call the domino effect.
Wouldn't the body though, like I'm just thinking about this out loud in my own head, like if you, just like you said, the body adapts, right? So if you lost a tooth, you had a problem, you go and you get an extraction, wouldn't the body adapt for that? And I would think that there wouldn't be any further problems, right? The body would recognize, okay, there's nothing there. We're going to do things to kind of strengthen the area around there and prevent future problems. That's how I would think about it anyway.
That's a very engineering minded approach of yours. Yeah, I mean, our bodies are incredible, right? They are incredibly efficient, resilient, adaptive. But those adaptations lead to changes that in some cases really can compromise our quality of life, right? And that's kind of what we want to discuss here today. What are the downstream effects of fixing that problem in the immediate sense, right? And what happens down the line? So let's take a little case study. We have a young patient, we'll call her Isabel, and she's in her mid-30s, right? She's got a full-time job. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's got a couple of kids. And as parents, we know all of the things that entails, right? Like you got pickups and drop-offs and practices and recitals. And it seems like your schedule is overwhelmed constantly. And as an aside, I don't know about you, but growing up, I don't remember this much structure. And I've got two kids. They both got extracurricular activities multiple times a week. My parents didn't take me anywhere after school. Like, you do your homework and go play with the kids in the neighborhood, sort of thing. But today, we have these crazy busy schedules, right? And we've talked about it in the podcast before, where sometimes because of our busy schedules, parents and non-parents, right? We tend to put things aside, right? And not be super proactive about things because we're swamped, right? And that's just, it is what it is. So she's super busy. She's got a little bit of discomfort down here on her bottom left, thinks nothing of it. It comes and goes. Maybe it's gotten a little bit more frequent in the last couple of months, but still sort of ignores it. I've got other things that are more pressing that I have to attend to right now. Perfectly understandable. right? Especially when it comes to like dental things, right? Like I get it. I'm a dentist. I understand that I don't want to make time in my schedule to deal with a toothache, right? So we postpone things, and inevitably they tend to progress and get worse. So now that occasional discomfort becomes a more frequent thing, and we're not chewing on the left side. We sort of favor the right side. And the problem keeps getting worse and worse until one day we have pain, we have an emergency dental visit, the tooth is removed, and there's no more pain.
Problem solved, right?
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. So what if I told you that that's exactly the moment where clinical changes and adaptations and problems start? So I love this analogy. I always use this analogy with my patients. Okay. Let's say taking your tooth out is like removing a fence post out of sand, right? You grab that fence post, you kind of wiggle it around, you make some space in the sand, and you pop it out. And now you're left with a hole in the sand, right? So what happens if you just let that hole be and sort of heal on its own? Well, the level of the sand would sort of like cave into the hole, right? And it would drop the level of the sand all the way around.
Oh,
Thing happens.
That's going to affect all the other posts at some level. Interesting.
Exactly. So our bodies are incredibly efficient, right? And they don't like wasting resources. So what happens? You remove that tooth, and now the bone that held that tooth in place really serves no purpose. So what does our body do? It breaks it down so that it doesn't have to spend resources maintaining it, because it doesn't serve a purpose. It's not holding a tooth anymore. Okay? That we can start to see how that starts leading to changes. Like you said, like that kind of compromises the sand level, right, for the other posts. So they're affected slightly. I heard someone use this analogy a couple months ago, and it really stuck with me. I'm big on analogies. It helps me understand, because I'm not a very bright man.
Everybody loves a good analogy. Who doesn't love a good?
So think of this. You've got a bookshelf with all of your books lined up, and you take a book out from the middle. What happens to the other books?
They tilt. They tilt. Yeah.
Right. So we see that just like that in the mouth, right? You take one tooth out from the middle, the teeth on the other side start to drift inward, right? And you say, okay, big deal, right? Who cares if they drift a little bit, right? But our teeth are designed beautifully, if I do say so myself. Right? It is a work of art. The engineering, the art and the science that goes into how our mouths are designed. Now, our teeth can withstand compression, so forces down, like chewing forces or clenching forces, very, very well along the long axis of the tooth, right? So if the tooth is upright and you press on it down,
you can withstand a lot of pressure directly going down, but not
a lot of pressure.
Not like angular necessarily.
Exactly. But the moment that tooth starts tipping over, right, now the forces aren't down the way the tooth is designed.
That makes sense. If the structural, if it's leaning, right, the structural, there's going to be an angle with the structure. It seems like force would affect it differently if it's not in its place
100%.
properly. That makes sense.
100%. And that leads to damage to the tooth. It leads to further damage to the underlying bone, gum recession, teeth break and crack, right? Because now they're withstanding forces that in a way that they're just not designed to.
Yeah, but it's just, how many teeth we have in the mouth, Doc?
32, including your wisdom teeth.
So 32. So you lose, it's just one tooth, right? One, if you lose one tooth, that's not going to affect the whole thing. Are you saying that just one issue in one tooth over time could create significant changes in the mouth?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what do we do about this?
Well, one of the things is understanding how we can restore that foundation to the mouth, right? Like that stability to the mouth. A big thing that, has really helped a lot of our patients out is how we manage the socket, right? Or the hole once teeth are removed. Do we have a plan in place to replace those teeth before all of this tipping and drifting and bone loss and other changes happen? So those are things that we discuss with patients before the fact, right? Before we take that tooth out, we have a conversation and decide, what do we want for the future and how do we set ourselves up to get there? All right. So we wrote the blog, and it really breaks down all of the dominoes in sequence. And if folks are interested in it, I urge them to take a look, because that can spark a very good conversation between them and their dentist. But for today's podcast, I really kind of wanted to break things down into like what is happening inside the mouth, behind the scenes. What do we see? What are the symptoms that we get once those changes start happening? So things to really be on the lookout for. And of course, how we can prevent all of those things and not have a difficult situation on our hands.
Yep. Prevention. We talk about it all the time, right? Ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure. It can't talk about it enough. Developing the right habits when it comes to taking care of your, like everything in life, but we're talking about oral health, right? Flossing every day, making sure you brush, making sure you do the preventative things required so you don't have issues in the future. And then ultimately, if you do have an issue, right, finding a dentist that you could work with that can go and make sure, because it just seems to me like if you actually have to have an extraction, like I lost a couple of teeth myself. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't want to get an implant. I think that there's probably a lot of people out there that the biggest impediment to doing that probably is their financial situation, I'd imagine. And there's a lot of people out there you see missing teeth and they've never fixed it. I could only imagine the only reason why you wouldn't fix it is related to finance, like the financial component of it, because it seems like such an important thing, right? You lose a tooth. Well, let's get a new one in there. Yeah. Let's do whatever we can to get a new one in there.
I would argue that above and beyond the finances, and I agree, it's definitely an investment, right? And dentistry done well just isn't cheap. But I would argue that the number one impediment for people not being more proactive about making sure that their teeth are replaced is they just don't know. They haven't been educated as to what is actually happening, right? And what are the downstream effects of losing a tooth and not replacing it. So, I think that's why this conversation is important, right? So that folks do understand, even if it is one missing tooth, conversation with your dentist. Hey, is this causing any of these issues? Am I going to be okay? Does everyone absolutely have to replace every tooth that's been removed? No. Right? Like we can live without any teeth, right? But it is a quality of life decision, right? That actually impacts your health in very significant ways.
Yeah, man, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see things through other perspectives. Like from where I sit, I lose a tooth, I'm just like, I'm going to get a new tooth. There's just no, like, I wouldn't want to have, like, for multiple reasons, right? Like aesthetically, it looks odd when you smile and you're missing a tooth, but then also like running your tongue through the missing spot and just like all that. And these are just like superficial things at that point. And now you're talking about all these additional downstream problems related to the stability, the structure of the mouth, and like how not fixing that issue now can ultimately lead to many, many future problems that are going to cost more money, more problems, and just more issues later.
Right.
It seems like a no-brainer to me.
Right. Absolutely. Generally the quicker the more proactively we tackle things, the better the long-term the outcome is, right? And the mouth charges interest, man. It's like the longer we wait, the more uncomfortable and expensive things become. There's just no getting around that, right? So kind of going back to our little case study of Isabel, right? Like she went right back to her super busy schedule, as one would do, right? The tooth was removed and problem solved, no more pain, and went back to, about her business, busy schedule, picking up the kids, drop off, games, whatever. Months go by, right? These changes start happening. The bone starts dissolving, teeth start drifting a little bit. Sometimes we don't even notice that those changes are happening. But maybe we start trapping a little bit of food between a couple of teeth and the gums are irritated. Something that we see a lot with people is development of TMJ symptoms, right? Clenching and grinding type behaviors, headaches, jaw tension. Because what happens, right? As those shifts are happening in the mouth, the system loses stability, muscles try to start compensating for things, right? And by this point, Isabel had been avoiding the left side for months because it was kind of achy, right? So we were chewing on the right side all the time. Now the tooth was removed, so it's sore for a couple of weeks, so we're definitely not chewing on the left side. And then after it's healed, well, shoot, I got a gap in the left side. It's just a lot more comfortable to keep chewing on the right side, right? And now it's like we're walking by just taking steps forward with our right leg, right? Things are going to happen. Your hips are going to start hurting. Your lower back is going to start hurting. Muscles are going to atrophy because you're not using them properly. So it creates these imbalances, and we're kind of quick to chalk up all TMJ issues to stress, right? Because it is a really significant component in it. But the stability and the harmony of the mouth influences it too, right? So that's one of the things that we see happen a lot. And people honestly would just never make the connection between those two things, right? Like, how can losing a tooth lead me to lose more teeth? Well, you lost the tooth, teeth drift. Now they're taking forces in ways they're not intended to. That can damage the tooth or damage the gums and bone underneath it. You start developing TMJ symptoms and we start clenching and grinding, which puts more stress on our teeth. So now they're more likely to crack and fracture and things like that. Right? So it becomes this spiral that, of course, it doesn't mean if you lose a tooth, all of your teeth are going to break out of your head in a year, right? Like that's not what we're saying here, but these changes do happen and people should be aware of them.
Yeah.
Doggone it, it's my job to bring them that information.
And I think the fact that everything we're talking about is so gradual and it's not something you can feel, right? It's out of sight, out of mind. And it's something that you don't really have to pay attention to because it's not going to be an issue for a long time. But once it is an issue, it's a big issue. So I think like the biggest takeaway from what we're talking about here is like to everybody out there, like take care of yourself. We only have this one life. We only have this one body, right? Take care of it. Put the time in, put the effort in. And when it comes, I said it before, I'll say it again. And this is something that I struggle with myself. We're not alone here, but like just brushing diligently, brushing your teeth, flossing is one of those things. I think you speak to a lot of people and they probably don't floss regularly. It's such an easy thing to do, yet we, for whatever reason, we just don't do it. And then these things become bigger problems. And then if you do have a bigger problem, get it taken care of. Don't wait until it becomes a bigger problem because you're just going to have more pain, more investment, more issues to fix in the future.
Yeah. 100%. Like, the ancient Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yep.
Right. Like at any point you can decide to be proactive, right? Isabel could have been proactive when the tooth first started hurting, and it probably would have been a relatively minor, solution. Or we can choose to be proactive when the tooth is removed so that, all of these downstream, all these dominoes, right, don't end up falling. So whatever stage you're at, just have a conversation with your provider, with your dentist, right? If you're missing a tooth and you've noticed any of these changes happening, I hope this conversation just really sparks a discussion for what the possibilities are.
Raising awareness, one tooth at a time, my friend.
That's what we do.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's leave it at that. Thanks everyone for tuning in, joining us on this journey. Let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But if we missed anything, if there's anything going on in your world, we want to hear about it. Let us know in the comments. We're always interested to hear your feedback, and we'll look forward to catching everyone next time on the next episode of the Semi-Day Dental Podcast. Everyone, take care.
Keep smiling, folks.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Semi-Day Dental Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media for the latest episodes. You can find us at Semi-Day Dental. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. Until then, keep smiling and stay curious.